My name is Clara Thompson. I'm 42. And last Sunday, I was reminded blood doesn't always mean belonging. She just got lucky, Madison said, her voice slicing through the air. No degree, no real career, just married well. Laughter followed. Not mine. I froze fork halfway to my mouth. Not out of shock, just something colder. The kind of silence that comes when you realize they don't see you. They never did. My son's milk stain still clung to my sleeve. No one mentioned it. They didn't have to. She doesn't fit in, Madison added, smiling like it was a compliment. And in that moment, under crystal chandeliers and fake smiles, I realized I was still the girl they thought wasn't enough. Have you ever felt that? Not loud pain, just quiet dismissal. If you have, stay. Let me tell you what happened next, and if this story touches something inside you, leave me a like, maybe even subscribe, because this isn't just my story, it could be yours too. I didn't say a word. Not when they laughed. Not when my brother Mark gave a silent nod like he agreed. Not even when Emily, a woman I barely knew, glanced at me, half apologetic, half embarrassed. The room was all glass and gloss, light everywhere, cold too, like I wasn't supposed to be there, like I hadn't earned my seat. Oliver, my son, was with the nanny downstairs. I wanted him with me. But Madison said it's an adult brunch. She planned the whole thing. Invited Mark's colleagues, their polished wives, their designer smiles. I wiped my hands on a napkin, not from mess, from nerves. I stood up, slowly. The table went quiet, but no one stopped me. No one even asked. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was the pressure behind my ribs, the kind that builds when you're pushed aside without a word, without a fight. Have you ever swallowed your voice just to keep the peace? If you have, you'll understand what I did next. I walked toward the elevator. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of the weight on my body, but the weight in my chest. Shame is quiet. It doesn't scream. It hums beneath your skin, telling you maybe they're right. I pressed the button, waited. The hallway smelled like lemon polish and money. It always did, but today it burned. Then the sound of brakes outside. I looked through the glass. A sleek black SUV pulled up. The door opened. Daniel stepped out. Tall, still, calm in a way that made people freeze. Slate gray suit, hands in pockets, eyes hidden behind aviators. He didn't look around, didn't pause, just walked forward like he already knew. The doorman stumbled trying to greet him. Daniel didn't stop. He pushed the brunch doors open like the room belonged to him, because in a way, it did. And in that second, the air inside shifted. He didn't look at the food, or the view, or the people frozen mid-sentence. His eyes found me. Only me. He walked straight over, stopped beside me. I came for her, he said. Just that. Clear, steady, final. Mark's face went pale. Madison blinked, lips parting like she might object, but no sound came out. Daniel reached for my hand. Come on, baby, he said softly. I've had enough fake brunches this week. My fingers slid into his, not because I needed saving, but because he knew when I needed space. And when I needed to leave. He didn't pull, he waited, I nodded. And together we walked out. No one stopped us. No one even stood. Funny how the room went silent right after spending so long trying to make noise. I didn't look back. But I knew. They finally realized the man they'd spent 10 minutes name-dropping was mine. The car door closed behind us. Outside, polished glass, muted voices, slow traffic. Inside, quiet, safe. I leaned back against the leather seat, not speaking yet, just breathing. Daniel didn't ask questions. He held my hand loosely, like he was still holding space. You good? He asked, voice low, eyes straight ahead. I nodded slowly. I shouldn't have come. You should have, he said. They just shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I let out a dry laugh. You saw their faces, he smirked. I think Mark choked on his ego. The car rolled forward. Manhattan passed by in silence, but inside me something kept turning, because I wasn't really okay. This wasn't the first time I'd been made small, laughed at, dismissed without a fight. They'd done it before, in quieter ways, with smiles, with silence, with glances, and I'd let them. Until now. Madison had never liked me, not since the wedding, not since Daniel and I said I do, and the spotlight she thought was hers shifted. She used to call me a lucky waitress, said it with a smile like kindness laced with poison, but she didn't know. She never asked. She didn't know I worked 2 jobs. Didn't know about the nights I skipped dinner so Oliver could eat. Didn't know how I cried in bathroom stalls, locked doors hiding the sound. She saw the ring, the house, the clothes, and thought that meant ease. She never saw the bruises left behind by my ex, the debt, the fear, the long road to something stable. She thought Daniel handed me a life. What she didn't see was everything I'd already survived before I met him, and what I was quietly building while she laughed at me across that table. 3 years ago when Daniel married me, he didn't just bring love. He brought trust. He never cared about my past. He asked about my plans. He didn't fix me. He taught me how to build. He showed me how to read contracts, how to spot holes in deals, how to lead a conversation without raising my voice. We started slow, a tiny real estate investment in Brooklyn. Then another and another. One night, between Oliver's bedtime and Bill's Summit Grace group was born right there at my kitchen table. I built it while cooking dinner, while answering emails at 1 a.m., while rocking my son with one arm and signing documents with the other. I didn't talk about it, not yet, but the truth was I wasn't just Daniel's wife. I was becoming something none of them were ready for. Last month, I closed on my 5th property, an 8-figure portfolio. Quiet, steady, mine. I funded local businesses led by women who reminded me of me. No fancy resumes, just grit. I was invited to speak at a private equity panel in D.C. They called me a rising name. I smiled, but I wasn't done rising. What no one at that brunch knew was that I was in talks to partner with Daniel's firm on a deal that could shift the entire luxury hotel market in New York. And right in the middle of it, Madison's father's holdings. They laughed over mimosas. They thought I was lucky. But luck didn't buy those properties. Luck didn't skip meals. Luck didn't stay up nights, wondering if rent would clear. Pain did, grit did, and I wasn't building revenge, I was building leverage. That night, I sat on our balcony, laptop open, city lights flickering below. Oliver was asleep, his favorite stuffed bear tucked under his arm. Daniel stepped out, carrying a mug in one hand. He sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder, quiet like he always is, when words aren't needed. "You thinking about Madison?" he asked. I shrugged. Not really. He sipped, then said, "Mark's company, it's bleeding. Investors pulling out. SEC might be sniffing around soon." I looked at him. Steady, calm. He looked back. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" A slow smile crept across my face. "Maybe it's time Summit Grace made a move." He grinned. "That's my girl." It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was timing, it was strategy, and it was finally mine. 2 days later, I sat in a glass-walled conference room in Midtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, a long marble table, suits everywhere. Not one of them looked at me twice when I walked in. That was fine. I was used to being underestimated. I took my seat at the head of the table, opened my folder, cleared my throat. "Gentlemen," I said, "my name is Clara Thompson. I'm the founder and managing partner of Summit Grace Group." No one moved. Not yet. "We've been quietly acquiring distressed commercial assets across the tri-state area, and today I'm here to make an offer." A man with gray hair and folded arms leaned back. "And who exactly are you?" I slid the folder across the table. Inside, audit flags, market forecasts, and a signed letter of intent to purchase controlling shares of Halston & Co., my brother's company. Now the room went silent for a different reason. One of the men leaned forward, squinting at the papers. "Wait, you're her." I tilted my head, just slightly. "Her who?" He didn't answer. Didn't say single mom. Didn't say Daniel Wright's wife, because in that moment I wasn't someone's shadow. I was the storm. "I know Halston & Co. is bleeding," I said calmly. "I also know key losses have been hidden for 3 quarters. They shifted in their chairs, glanced at each other. No one smiled now. "What I'm offering," I continued, "is a clean cash acquisition. You walk away with your skin intact," another man asked quietly. "And your brother, he knows." I looked him straight in the eye. He should have been more careful who he laughed at. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't about doubt. It was about realization, and I didn't flinch. That evening, I sat in the back of a quiet jazz lounge in Soho. Low lights, soft horns, my laptop open in front of me, numbers glowing on the screen. Oliver was home tucked in. Daniel at a business dinner uptown. I needed stillness to think, to breathe. My phone buzzed. Madison. I let it ring. It buzzed again. A text this time. Did you seriously just buy into Mark's company? Are you insane? I stared at the message for a second. Then turned the screen face down. She was catching on, but too late, because this wasn't just about business. It was about every smirk across that brunch table, every fake compliment, every time they whispered after I left the room. This was about taking back every inch of dignity they thought they'd stripped away. 3 days later, I was invited to dinner at Mark's place. Same penthouse, same view, same wine glasses polished to a shine. But something had changed. This time, they were trying. Madison complimented my coat. Mark pulled out my chair. It was all too sweet, too careful, like they sensed a shift but didn't know where it was coming from. I sat down without a word, held a folder in my lap. My hands didn't shake, because that morning, the sale had gone through. Summit Grace Group now owns 62% of Halston & Co. Mark didn't know who had replaced him yet, not until the elevator opened. Daniel stepped in first, gave Mark a polite nod, then stepped aside, and I walked in behind him. Not in heels, not in anything flashy, just a black suit hair pulled back and the truth in my hands. Mark stood up fast. "What's going on?" he asked, voice tight. I walked to the table, opened the folder, and handed him the top document. "This is your official notice," I said. "Effective immediately, the board has appointed a new interim CEO of Halston & Co." His fingers trembled slightly as he read. "You're kidding." I met his eyes. "No, Mark, I'm not." The room went still. The kind of still that makes your lungs feel too big for your chest. Madison whispered, "This is insane." Behind me, Daniel let out a quiet laugh. "No," he said. "This is what happens when you underestimate the quiet one." I took a step closer, not out of anger, out of certainty. "You tried to break me," I said, "again and again, but you never saw what I was building while you were laughing." Madison opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not a word, not even a sound. And then from the hallway, Mommy Oliver's voice. He ran in arms wide, our nanny just a step behind. I bent down, scooped him up. His small hands wrapped around my neck, his head resting on my shoulder like he'd done since he was 2. I held him tight, tighter than I needed to, because this moment, this wasn't just for me, it was for every woman who's ever been laughed at. Every single mom they called a burden. Every quiet girl they thought wouldn't fight back. And the best part, this was only part 3. There was so much more to come, they just didn't know it yet. Mark didn't show up to the office the next morning. His assistant said he wasn't feeling well, but we both knew it wasn't a cold. His company email had been deactivated. Credit cards frozen. The senior board had already been briefed on the internal audit I ordered. Because when you run a business like it's your personal ATM, eventually someone checks the receipts. And now I was that someone. Back at the Summit Grace office, my office sunlight poured through glass walls. Stacks of deal folders covered my desk. We were growing. 11 women, 5 men, all handpicked, not for degrees, not for LinkedIn profiles, for grit, for scars, for hunger. I didn't ask where they came from. I asked where they wanted. Tasha, my head of operations, knocked once. "He's here," she said. I nodded and stood, straightened my blazer, calm, ready. Mark walked in. He didn't look like the man who once smirked through my baby shower. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, his pride barely holding on. He didn't sit, just stood there, staring. "You really did it," he muttered. "You actually took it." I met his eyes. "No, Mark, I earned it. While you played Legacy Prince, I worked. Every hour, every contract, every long night with spreadsheets and baby bottles. I didn't take your company. You lost it." He stepped forward, face tight. "This was supposed to be mine. I didn't move. Now it's mine." And for the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He laughed bitter low. "All because you married rich." I shook my head. "You still don't get it." I walked around the desk, stopped just inches from him. I didn't win because I married Daniel. I married Daniel because I was already a fighter. His jaw clenched. But I kept going. I knew what pain felt like, what it meant to be ignored, what it meant to climb alone. While you and Madison laughed at me, I was watching, I was learning. I didn't marry up, I built up. He looked away. But I wasn't done. I'm giving you a choice, I said softer now. Resign, take your severance. Walk out with dignity, or stay. And I keep digging, and if I find what I think I will, you'll be answering to more than just the board. Silence. Then he nodded barely. You'll hear from my lawyer. I hope I don't, I said, because if you push this, I'll stop being kind. That evening, I sat on the couch, Daniel beside me, Oliver between us, half asleep with popcorn in his lap. The TV played something light. None of us were really watching. Daniel glanced over. Do you regret any of it? He asked, voice quiet. I paused, thought for a moment. Sometimes I admitted, I wish they had been proud. That family didn't feel like family. He wrapped his arm around my shoulder. That's not on you. Oliver stirred, looked up. Mommy. Are you sad I kissed his hair? No, baby. I'm proud. And I was. Because even in my darkest hours, I held on. To him, to myself, to the future no one else believed in. And now sitting in that quiet room, I knew. I hadn't just survived. I'd changed everything. 2 weeks later, I stood on a stage in D.C., the Women in Leadership Conference. 1,000 faces in the crowd, bright lights, quiet breath. I didn't read a script. I didn't need one. I told them the truth, that I once scrubbed dishes at 2 a.m. with a baby on my hip, that I'd cried in grocery store aisles with $6 in my pocket, that I'd been laughed at by my own family, but I learned something no Ivy League ever taught. That power doesn't come from privilege, it comes from pain. From holding yourself together when the world wants you small, from saying no when silence feels safer. The room stood before I even finished, and somewhere near the back, a woman with tired eyes and calloused hands clutched her notepad a little tighter, thinking, if she could do it, maybe I can too. A month later, I was sitting alone in a midtown cafe. Late afternoon sun poured through the windows, emails on my screen, black coffee going cold. Then the door opened. Madison. No diamonds, no designer bag, just her. And a folded newspaper in her hand. She walked over slowly, stopped at my table, didn't smile. She placed the paper down. Single mom turned CEO shakes East Coast market. The headline stared back at me. She didn't sit at first, just looked at me for a long second. I didn't know who you were, she whispered. I met her eyes. I didn't either, I said. Until I had to be, and I meant it. Because this version of me, she wasn't born in comfort, she was born in fire, and I wasn't done yet. Another month passed. The city kept moving people, rushing deals, closing names forgotten and replaced. But mine stayed, on every boardroom's tongue, whispered, respected, feared, and yet every morning I still made breakfast, I still packed Oliver's lunch. Still tied his shoelaces, that part of me never changed, no matter how many zeros were added to my name. One morning I stood by the school gates. Oliver ran ahead, then turned back. Love you, Mommy, he shouted, his smile stretching wide. A father standing beside me chuckled. He's got your strength, he said. I just nodded. He's why I have it. And it was true. He was my anchor and my reason to rise, because behind every strong woman, there is often a little voice calling her mom. That afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel, are you free tonight? He asked. I glanced at my calendar. Full, like always. Depends, I said, sorting emails. I have a surprise, he said. Wear something powerful. That made me smile. I always do. At 7 p.m., he picked me up. Black suit. That subtle cologne I always notice. Calm eyes, steady hand. We pulled up outside the Orin, a private members club. No cameras. Just quiet power. Inside the lighting was low, the room small but potent, CEOs, financiers, and a few familiar faces including Madison. She froze when she saw me, because this time I wasn't adjusting a loose strap. I wasn't looking for where to sit, I was being led to the head table. Daniel leaned in, voice low. They want you to speak. I raised a brow. Tonight, he nodded. They changed the program after seeing the guest list. You've shaken the market too hard to ignore. 20 minutes later, a mic was placed in my hand. I didn't prepare a thing. Didn't need to. I looked around the room. The same room that once wouldn't have seen me, and I spoke. People once told me I didn't belong, that I was just a girl with no pedigree, that I got lucky. A pause. Then I smiled. And maybe I did, just not the way they think. I got lucky that I failed, that I fell, that I struggled, because it taught me how to rise without permission. I found Madison's eyes, held them, and I knew she finally saw me. I set the mic down. Applause followed, loud, steady rising, but I didn't stay on stage. I didn't linger. Daniel met me at the stairs. His hand on my back, a quiet, familiar touch. Later that night at home, I sat on the couch in pajamas. No makeup, no spotlight, just soft blankets and popcorn again. Daniel beside me, Oliver already asleep. You know, I said quietly, there's still a part of me that hurts. From the way they looked at me, laughed at me. Daniel pulled me closer. That part of you, that's the part that made you unstoppable. I leaned my head against his chest, because he was right. It wasn't the applause that built me. It was the silence, the doubt, the nights no one clapped. That's where I found myself. And I never looked back. The next morning I woke early. The city was still quiet. Just the hum of distant traffic and the soft click of my coffee maker. I opened my laptop, pulled up the final draft of a new acquisition deal. The numbers lined up. The timing was right. Another piece of the puzzle, another move, quiet, intentional. This is how I built everything, not with noise, but with patience. Every decision made in the calm before someone else's storm. By 7 a.m., Oliver shuffled into the kitchen, hair messy, rubbing his eyes. Morning, mommy, he mumbled. Morning, love, I smiled. He climbed into my lap, head resting on my chest. I paused my work. Held him, because no matter how high I rose, this moment was my foundation, my reminder, why I started, why I kept going, and why I would never stop. Later that week, I met with my board. We reviewed projections, outlined expansion, and signed off on a new investment round. Another milestone, another quiet win, no speeches, no claps, just progress. After the meeting, Tasha pulled me aside. There's something you should see, she said. She handed me a file. Thin, clean, heavy. Inside documents, tracing back internal losses at Halston & Co. personal expenses. Hidden withdrawals, all under Mark's name. I closed the folder slowly. No shock, just confirmation. I'll handle it, I told her. And I meant it. Because when you build something brick by brick, you protect it. And when someone tries to gut it from the inside, you don't flinch. You remove them. Clean, quiet, permanent. This wasn't revenge. It was responsibility. That evening, I called Mark, told him to come in. One last meeting. No lawyers, no audience, just the two of us. He arrived late. Same suit, but it hung on him differently now. He sat across from me, hands clasped, eyes tired. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. I slid the file across the table. I gave you a chance, Mark. He didn't open it. Didn't have to. He knew what was inside. You didn't just run a company into the ground, I said. You gambled with other people's futures. His jaw clenched, but he stayed silent. You always said I got lucky, I continued. But I didn't build Summit Grace with luck. I built it with nights you never saw, with hours no one paid for, with pain you laughed at. He looked up, and this time he didn't argue. I stood slowly, walked around the table, folders still between us. You told everyone I married up, I said. But the truth is, Daniel didn't lift me. He stood beside me. I was already climbing when you were too busy looking down on me. Mark shifted in his seat, tried to hold on to whatever pride he had left. You don't get to rewrite the story, he said. I looked at him. I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just not letting you write it for me anymore. He exhaled. Shaky, bitter. What do you want? Nothing, I said. You're out. I don't need more than that. He stood, looked at me like he might speak again, but he didn't, because he knew whatever this was, he had already lost it long ago. He walked to the door, paused, hand on the handle. You really think you're better than us now? He asked. I didn't answer right away, just looked at him. I think I stopped letting you define me, I said, and maybe that's what scares you most. He opened the door, didn't say goodbye. I stood in the silence he left behind, not angry, not triumphant, just clear, because this wasn't about being better. It was about being free, free from their version of who I was, free from needing their approval. I turned back to my desk, deal folders open, new projects waiting. There was work to do, there was always work to do. But this time, I wasn't carrying shame with me, just purpose, and a little more peace than yesterday. That night, the office was quiet. Most of the team had gone home. Lights dim, city humming outside the windows. I stayed late, not out of pressure, but momentum. Somewhere between tired and focused, I found calm. My inbox buzzed. A message from a nonprofit I'd been funding quietly. Single mothers starting over. Another lease approved. Another woman with a chance. I smiled, closed the email. This was the part no one saw. No headlines, no applause. Just the slow rebuilding of what others tried to break. Step by step, one life at a time. I wasn't trying to be loud. I was trying to be lasting. Because success isn't just money in the bank. It's what you do with it when no one's watching. And I was finally in a place where I could do something good. On my terms. The next morning, I woke early again. Oliver was already at the table legs swinging cereal half-eaten. "Big day," he asked, grinning. I nodded. "Always." He reached for my hand. "I like when you smile in the morning." That stayed with me. Later at the office, Tasha walked in holding a new proposal. Another opportunity. Another door opening. But before we dove in, she paused. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. I looked around my team, working voices low, energy steady. I thought about where we started. My kitchen table, late nights, doubt louder than belief. And now this. "I'm more than okay," I said. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." She smiled. And for the first time in a long time, so did I. Not because I had everything, but because I'd built it myself. That afternoon, I had lunch alone. Corner booth, same little cafe I used to hide in on hard days. No one asked for meetings, no one hovered, just quiet. I scrolled through my phone, saw a news headline tucked between market reports. Quiet power, how one woman redefined the game. They didn't name me, but I knew. The words echoed what I'd lived, what so many women live without a microphone. I looked out the window, watched a young mom balancing a baby on one hip, pushing a stroller with the other, exhausted. Focused, invisible to everyone but her child. And I thought that was me, not long ago. No audience, no praise, just movement. And I whispered to myself, "You're seen now, but you were strong even when you weren't." That evening, Daniel came home early. No suit, no briefcase, just him, relaxed, quiet, steady. He walked into the kitchen, wrapped his arms around my waist. "You're glowing," he said, resting his chin on my shoulder. I smiled, kept stirring the pot on the stove. "I had a good day," I said. Oliver ran in socks, sliding on the floor. He hugged Daniel's leg. "Can we do movie night?" Daniel looked at me. I nodded. "Absolutely." Later, the three of us curled up on the couch. Blankets, popcorn, warmth, the kind of moment you don't post about. "You just live in it." Daniel looked over. "Everything feels different now," I thought for a moment. "No," I said, just clearer. And it was, because success hadn't changed me, it had revealed me. The next morning, an invitation arrived, a handwritten envelope, gold trim, formal. Daniel handed it to me at breakfast. "It's from Madison," he said. I opened it slowly. A charity gala, black tie, her name listed as co-chair. I raised an eyebrow. "She wants to talk," Daniel said. I nodded. Of course she does. Not out of kindness, out of necessity. The world had shifted, and I was no longer on the outside of the room. I was the room. That night, I chose a simple dress. No glitter, no loud statement, just structure, presence, clarity. We arrived late. The room paused when we entered, not because of Daniel, because of me. And for once, everyone saw it. Not just the woman who married well, but the one who built her own table. Madison found me near the back of the room. She didn't smile, didn't pretend. Just walked up, a glass of champagne in one hand, eyes searching mine. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. I nodded. "Wasn't sure you'd want me here." She hesitated, then looked down, fingers tightening around the glass. "You changed everything," she said. Her voice wasn't bitter, just tired. I didn't see it coming. "I know," I said. "No one did." She met my eyes. "I used to think you were just quiet, soft, temporary." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to prove. She took a breath. I was wrong. For the first time in years, Madison didn't feel above me. She felt human, and small in a way that didn't make me feel big, just steady. I didn't gloat, didn't jab, I just stood still and let the moment speak for itself. Later that night, we drove home in silence, not heavy silence, peaceful, full. The city lights blurred past the window, soft golden blue like the world was exhaling. Daniel reached over, took my hand, his thumb tracing slow circles across my skin. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Better than okay?" He smiled. Not the proud kind, the knowing kind. At home, Oliver was already asleep, tucked in one sock, missing his toy lion on the pillow. I stood by his door for a moment, watched him breathe, then walked to the living room, took off my earrings, set them beside the coffee mug I hadn't finished that morning. Daniel joined me. No words this time, just presence. I curled into him, exhaled slow, not because I was tired, but because I had finally arrived at a life I built with no one's permission but my own. The next morning, the sun rose soft and slow. Light spilled through the kitchen window, catching the edges of the mug I left out the night before. I stood at the stove, pancakes sizzling, Oliver humming to himself at the table. Daniel poured coffee, kissed my temple. No words, just warmth. This was our rhythm now. Not loud, not flashy, but solid. I looked at Oliver, his messy hair, this syrup on his cheek, and I smiled, because I used to wonder if I'd ever feel safe again, if I'd ever stop shrinking myself to fit someone else's version of who I should be. Now, I wasn't shrinking, I was standing, leading, living, and still making breakfast for the boy who gave me my fight. This isn't the end of my story, but if you've made it this far, thank you, and if you've ever been doubted, dismissed, or told to sit down, stand up, your story's not over either. If this story found a part of you, a memory, a moment, a feeling, I'd love to know. Share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone, and if you'd like to hear more stories like this, real quiet, powerful, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.